Hi everyone. My name is Oliver Loutsenko. I am founder and CEO of OVOM Research. Happy weekend. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the U.S. equity market, and specifically, I wanted to talk about Eli Lilly. I think there's obviously a lot of attention paid to the performance of semis and companies like Nvidia. And that dynamics kind of created um, an environment where I think we know that a lot of U.S. large cap stocks that typically perform pretty well in a bull market are underperforming, but also in the case of Eli Lilly, at least from the data that I'll show in my brief presentation, it's in my view, flown under the radar of how, overpriced it is. Just wanted to talk for a few minutes about that and let me share my presentation. Okay. So, just to start, this is, a slide showing kind of the um, major performance of major US large caps and some mega caps and also a few of Eli Lilly's competitors. Excuse me. So we see that since 2015, Eli Lilly's actually outperformed a majority of the Magnificent Seven. Um, you see Amazon, Microsoft, and Apple at the top, and then really all of Eli Lilly's competitors in the healthcare S&P 500 ETF, are towards the bottom. Then, from a year-to-date perspective, outside of the semis, which are I think are a really good discussion for a separate presentation. They're pretty parabolic and, in my view, not justified performance. They're outperforming Eli Lilly, but outside of that, you could again see the major mega caps like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, all underperforming Eli Lilly year to date. So I just wanted to share a slide on NVIDIA because the next slide is going to be Eli Lilly. So, here we see NVIDIA's obviously had a very, parabolic price, it's had very parabolic price action, since 2020, except for the bear market, in 2022, which they kind of arguably reversed, with the semi and AI story. So what I wanted to highlight here is, the bottom panel. While I definitely think Nvidia's, majorly overpriced, and again, I think that deserves a separate video. In all fairness, and this is the case a lot of tech bulls make, you could see Nvidia's EPS growth year over year. It's increasing every quarter at, a pretty dramatic pace. And, obviously so is their price. I think their price is, a little bit too, not more than a little bit too high, but, again, that's kind of another story. So here at Eli Lilly, we can see pretty similar price action. And as the next few slides will show, their valuations, gotten much higher on a relative basis than even, than all of their competitors and, even companies like Nvidia, because they have delivered quarter after quarter on, EPS growth, where you could see Eli Lilly, their prices, just keeps moving up and up and up. But year over year EPS growth, a couple quarters was pretty negative. Then, here you have 7%, nothing too exciting, 13%. They have had, a few obviously great quarters. They wouldn't have the valuation that we're about to see if they didn't. But from an from an earnings perspective of what they've already delivered, I really don't see the merit in their price movement. But again, even it's even not really comparable to companies like Nvidia. So I guess before I share my slides on valuation, it's just the top five holdings um, in the S&P 500 ETF, and the top five weighted holdings. So the ones that carry the most weight in the XLV ETF. Again, we could see that Eli Lilly is outpacing the other four pretty dramatically. But when it comes to their valuation, again, these are all their competitors, and I included, a few of the kind of, growthier names in healthcare, which is typically considered a growth segment. Um, and actually on that point, it's generally considered a pretty non-cyclical growth segment. But I think, Eli Lilly's kind of, if not change that composition for the broader ETF, at least as as an individual equity. I think the current price to earnings ratio of almost 135 times earnings, it's definitely, in my view, a much more cyclical healthcare growth company, if that makes sense. And this is something I plan to finish the video with. But so Eli Lilly's the main reason behind their recent move up, I would say we could agree, is their cholesterol drug that got FDA approval to use in, I think, weight loss, I guess, a weight loss medication by Wegovy, if I'm pronouncing that right. So that's really what kind of what's led to their increase. And if you think about, well, I'll get into this at the end, but from a cyclicality perspective, I think we could agree that when the consumer isn't doing as well, so in an economic downturn, there would be less demand for weight loss drugs, which are, in my view, have a pretty which in my view are pretty price elastic. So yeah, that's kind of just brief summary of why I think it's I guess a cyclical healthcare stock, cyclical growth stock, and therefore at a higher valuation presents a much bigger risk of downturn. And again, from a price to sales perspective, far outpacing all of their competitors. And also, I didn't say this on the price to earnings side, but Nvidia's their current price to earnings ratio is about, I think, 58 times earnings. So Eli Lilly's about 2.5x Nvidia's price to earnings ratio, and price to sales, Nvidia's a little higher, but Eli Lilly at over 22x sales. I mean, you don't see that like in healthcare that I'm familiar with. If anything, that's 22 times, more than 22 times sales. That's only in technology, and only in really companies where that kind of become disconnected from reasonable market valuations, where you kind of have that like unlimited growth potential story. But I mean, even then, that is you really can't trust how expensive that is. And again, we're talking about a healthcare stock. So yeah, I think that really speaks to why I think it's so overvalued. And the with again the very rapid price move up, Eli Lilly's also moved up to the 10th largest publicly traded company in the world. So you have almost all of the Magnificent Seven. They're bigger than Tesla now by a couple hundred or a few hundred billion. They're about, I think, 50 billion or so away, or maybe even less than that from Berkshire, and then like 50 or 60 billion from TSMC. So they're not far away from eighth place. And the way that they've been trading, price action wise, it's unless we see we see economic disappointment soon, and the bear market that I think is inevitable begins relatively soon. They're probably going to wind up at eighth, peaking at eighth, if not higher on this list, which again, for a healthcare stock, I think is pretty outrageous. So the last slide, so this is really specific to, like I said before, Eli Lilly's recently approved Wegovy drug. So I don't, this slide on its own would definitely look a little bit misleading. So I just want to clarify that when I speak about the total addressable market. So Eli Lilly has they essentially, Novo Nordisk is essentially their only competitor in that, you know, I guess like whatever like weight loss drug market you want to call it, like they have one competitor, and that's Novo Nordisk. And that's, they're a very large healthcare company too. So the combined market cap this is the current combined market cap of Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, 1.35, called 1.36 trillion dollars. And this was reported in Bloomberg about 3 or so months ago. So the CEO of Novo Nordisk, he was asked about Eli Lilly's recent FDA approval, and he was talking about the size, potential size of that market, because again, Novo Nordisk, I forget the name of the competitor to Eli Lilly's Wegovy, but he essentially said that he sees a lot of potential, because he thinks that this market could reach as much as $100 billion by 2030. So that sounds super exciting, except it's 14 times less, sorry, or more than that, than the current combined market cap of the two companies who, again, it's unfair to say that their entire businesses are exclusive to the weight loss cholesterol drug market, if that's what it is. But certainly that's, again, that's the only explanation behind both of their recent movements in price and total company valuation. So if we think about like the most exciting thing that these companies are doing, it's not clear what is driving the valuation from market participants, because a company's market cap is based on their total addressable market. And if we're saying by 2030 it could reach 100 billion, which to be fair, coming from the CEO of a company looking to do well in that market, that's kind of code for like it'll probably be like 60 billion or so. So yeah, it's that's certainly already more than priced into their valuation. That's why I said at the top of the slide, it's as if market participants are paying a premium for drugs that haven't been developed by either of these companies yet. So yeah, that's all I had. Hope you enjoy, and have a great weekend.